The winter wind swept across the high mesas like 1,000 invisible horses, their howls echoing through the jagged peaks. Snow fell in a relentless curtain, thick enough to erase the line between earth and sky. For an Apache warrior named Taza, the storm was no stranger. He had endured many blizzards in the high country, hunting elk and guiding his horse through trails buried under white silence. Yet this storm felt different. It bit deeper, moved faster, and seemed to whisper with voices not entirely of this world. Taza pulled his buffalo hide cloak tighter around his shoulders, guiding his Mustang through a narrow canyon. The animal's ears flicked nervously, hooves sinking into snow that was already knee-deep. He knew he had to find shelter soon, both for himself and for his horse, or the cold would leach the life from their bones. The canyon walls offered some protection from the wind, but as the storm swirled above, he caught sight of something unusual, a shape in the whiteness, stumbling and falling, then rising again only to collapse once more. At first, he thought it must be a coyote dragging prey, or perhaps the spirit of the snow itself playing tricks on his eyes. But as he drew closer, he saw it was a person, a girl no older than 15 winters, her clothing foreign and unsuited for the mountain cold. Her dress was torn, her hands bare, and her skin pale against the storm. She was staggering like a wounded bird, lost and near death. Taza leapt from his horse, his moccasins crunching in the snow, and caught her just as she collapsed again. Her lips were blue, her lashes heavy with frost. She tried to speak, but only a whisper escaped, carried away by the storm. He could not understand her words, but he could feel her desperation. Without hesitation, he pulled her against him, wrapping his cloak around them both. "Stay awake," he murmured in Apache, though he doubted she understood. "The storm is cruel, but you must not sleep." Her head rested against his chest, her breath shallow. He knew she would not survive long unless he found refuge. With a surge of strength, he lifted her into the saddle of his Mustang, mounting behind her to steady her limp body. The horse, sensing the urgency, pressed forward into the storm. The canyon bent and opened into a grove of pines, their boughs heavy with snow. There, tucked against the rocks, Taza remembered a shallow cave he had once used as shelter during a hunt. He urged the Mustang forward until its hooves scraped stone. The cave yawned before them, black and small, but large enough to shield them from the storm's fury. Inside, the air was dry and still, smelling of earth and pine needles. Taza laid the girl gently on a bed of leaves left behind by squirrels, then kindled a small fire from the wood he carried in his pouch. Sparks leapt, flames licked upward, and warmth began to seep into the chamber. The girl stirred, her eyes fluttering open. They were a strange color, gray like storm clouds. She whispered something again, her voice faint, her words foreign. Taza shook his head slowly, offering her a strip of dried venison instead. She tried to take it, her fingers trembling, but lacked the strength. He fed her small bites, patient as though she were a child. Hours passed, the blizzard outside screaming against the rocks. Within the cave, the firelight painted their faces gold and shadow. The girl, shivering, slowed. Her eyes studied him with a mixture of fear and wonder, as if uncertain whether he was man or spirit. Taza did not speak much. His people taught that silence often spoke truer than words. But in his heart, a strange feeling took root, an awareness that this encounter was not mere chance. When dawn came, the storm finally relented. Snow lay deep upon the land, sparkling under the first pale light. Taza prepared to lead the girl back toward his people, but when he turned to wake her, he found the bed of leaves empty. Her footprints led only a few steps from the cave's mouth before disappearing into the whiteness, swallowed whole by the snow. He stood there, heart pounding, wondering if she had been real at all. Had he dreamed her in the fever of the storm? Or had the mountain spirit sent her as a test of his courage and mercy? From that day forward, the vision of the girl in the blizzard would haunt him. Her gray eyes, her faint whisper, the fragile weight of her body in his arms, all etched into his memory like carvings in stone. He would tell no one at first, for who would believe such a story? But in the silence of winter nights, when the fire burned low, Taza would remember her and wonder if somewhere beyond the horizon she still lived. And if she lived, would fate ever bring her back? The winters came and went, but the memory of the girl in the blizzard clung to Taza like frost that never melted. He was young still, scarcely more than a boy when the storm had delivered her into his arms. Yet that single night remained sharper than 100 hunts, brighter than a dozen sunrises over the canyon walls. Sometimes when he closed his eyes at night, he could feel her weight again, fragile, trembling, pressed against him under the buffalo hide. He remembered the way her breath came in ragged gasps, the faint sound of her voice whispering words he could not understand. The storm had stolen her away before he could know her name, and in its place it had left only questions. Had she been real? Or had she been a spirit of the snow testing his strength, his compassion? Among his people, the mountains were alive with powers unseen. The wind could speak, the rivers could carry omens, and sometimes the land itself chose to reveal visions to those who listened. Some nights Taza wondered if he had embraced not a girl of flesh and bone, but a messenger from the old ones. Around the campfires, when his brothers told stories of hunts and raids, Taza found himself quiet. His mind wandered back to gray eyes that had watched him in firelight, to lips that had moved in desperate whispers. At first he told no one. To speak of her seemed dangerous, as though the memory might dissolve if carried on the air. But after moons of silence, he finally confided in his closest friend, Koyan, a warrior quick to laugh and quicker to jest. "You dream too much," Koyan said after hearing Taza's tale. He tossed a bone into the fire, grinning. "A girl who appears in a storm and vanishes without tracks? That is no mortal girl. Perhaps you held a spirit in your arms. Or perhaps you were only cold, and the snow played tricks on you." The others around the fire chuckled, shaking their heads. To them, the tale was little more than fancy, a boy's imagination fed by winter solitude. Yet Taza did not laugh. His heart told him the memory was real, more real than the jests of his companions. As seasons turned, he tried to bury her face beneath the duties of life. He rode with the hunters, followed the elk herds, and trained with the bow until his arms were strong. He watched the girls of his people smile shyly at him, some bold enough to speak of marriage in half-joking tones. But none of them stirred the same quiet fire that lived in the hollow of his chest. None had eyes like the storm, gray and searching. Sometimes, when snow began to fall again, he found himself wandering the canyons alone, retracing the path to that cave. He would stand in its mouth, staring at the bed of leaves where she had lain, as if expecting her to return at any moment. The wind would moan through the pines, and he would close his eyes, half hoping to hear her whisper again. Years passed this way, the memory neither fading nor easing. It became part of him, like the scar on his shoulder from a hunt gone wrong, or the songs his mother had sung when he was a child. The other warriors grew into men with wives, children, and burdens of their own. But Taza's heart remained restless, tethered to a single night he could not explain. His elders noticed. One winter evening, his grandfather, old and bent like a cedar tree, spoke to him by the fire. "You carry a shadow, grandson," the elder said, his voice dry as wind through grass. "It is not good for a warrior to live among shadows. Tell me what it is that follows you." So Taza told him. Unlike Koyan and the others, the old man did not laugh. He listened, his weathered face unreadable, then stirred the embers with a stick. "The mountain gives visions to those it chooses," his grandfather said at last. Perhaps she was no spirit at all. Perhaps she was flesh, lost and found, taken again by fate. Or perhaps she was both, mortal and more than mortal. Such things happen when the earth wishes to bind two paths together. Taza listened in silence, his chest heavy. "Will I see her again?" he asked softly. The old man smiled faintly, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "If the mountain wills it. What is meant cannot be erased by snow." The words gave him little comfort, yet they rooted in him like seeds waiting for spring. He returned to his bed that night, staring at the stars beyond the lodge poles, and wondered if somewhere beneath the same sky, the girl from the blizzard remembered him too. And though he tried to tell himself she was a ghost, his heart refused to believe it. She had been real, he knew it, and someday, somehow, the wind would carry her back. The summer sun lay heavy on the land, spilling gold across the mesas and the river valleys where cottonwoods grew tall. It had been many winters since the storm, many hunts, many battles. Taza was a man now, no longer the boy who had stumbled upon a girl lost in the snow. His arms bore scars of conflict, his chest the steady strength of a warrior who had proven himself. Yet the memory of that winter night never left him. One day, while riding along the ridge above the valley, he spotted dust rising in the distance. A long caravan wound its way through the canyon floor below, wagons creaking, oxen straining, voices carrying faintly through the still air. Settlers, white men and women from the east, moving westward with their dreams of land and homes. Taza reined in his horse, narrowing his eyes. His people had watched such caravans before, wary of their presence. They brought with them strange tools, strange speech, and claims to the earth that was not theirs. His duty was to observe, to know who trespassed in Apache land. But as he looked closer, something in the caravan caught his attention. Among the settlers walked a young woman, slender and tall, her hair the color of wheat at harvest. She moved with quiet grace, though the dust of the road clung to her dress. And when she lifted her face toward the sun, Taza's breath caught in his throat. Her eyes, they were gray, the exact shade of storm clouds over the mountains, the same eyes that had stared at him in firelight long ago, in a cave carved out of snow and stone. For a moment, the world narrowed to that single detail, as though the wind, the river, even the cries of the settlers had fallen away. Taza's heart thundered. Could it be? Could the girl from the blizzard be walking there, alive and grown? He spurred his horse to follow at a distance, moving silently along the ridge. Each time the caravan paused, he watched her. How she helped lift children down from wagons, how she gathered firewood, how she laughed softly with an older woman. Yet there was a reserve about her too, a quietness that set her apart. She seemed both among them and apart from them, as though she carried a secret the others did not see. That night, when the settlers made camp by the river, Taza remained hidden in the shadows of the cottonwoods. The firelight flickered across her face, and once again he was transported back to the cave, the snow melting in her hair, her lips moving in whispers he could not understand. But she was no longer a girl. She was a woman now, her features refined, her movements sure, and yet in her eyes he saw something that told him she remembered. For often she would gaze into the darkness beyond the fire, her expression distant, as if she were searching for something just out of reach. Taza clenched his hands against the bark of the tree. His people would not approve of him revealing himself to her. Settlers and Apache were not meant to mix. The gulf between their worlds was wide, filled with mistrust and bloodshed. Yet the pull within him was undeniable, like a river carving its way through stone. When the camp finally grew quiet, and the settlers lay sleeping, he made his decision. He moved like a shadow, silent as the night wind, until he stood just beyond the circle of firelight. The young woman sat alone on a log, her face turned toward the stars. He stepped closer. A twig snapped beneath his moccasin. Her head whipped around, eyes wide, and in that instant, recognition lit her gaze. She did not scream. Instead, her lips parted, trembling with words meant only for him. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, but clear enough to strike him like an arrow. Apache warrior, I'm the girl from the blizzard you forgot. The fire crackled between them, casting long shadows on the earth. For a long heartbeat, neither moved. Taza felt the past and present collapse into one, the years between them vanishing like snow beneath the sun. He had not forgotten, not for a single day, and now here she was, flesh, voice, breath, the ghost of the storm made real. For a long moment, the world seemed to stop. The fire snapped and hissed. The river murmured softly nearby, but Taza heard nothing except her words repeating in his mind. Apache warrior, I'm the girl from the blizzard you forgot. He stepped into the light slowly so as not to frighten her. The years had changed her face, but the memory of her eyes, gray like storm clouds breaking over the peaks, remained exactly as he remembered. Her gaze did not waver as he came closer, though her hands clutched the fabric of her dress. I did not forget, he said in his own tongue, though he knew she might not understand. His voice was low, heavy with the weight of years. Not one day. The young woman's lips parted, her breath quick. She answered in halting Apache, the words rough as though they had been learned long ago and not often spoken. I remember. The cave, the fire. You saved me. I was only a child. Her accent was strange, foreign, but her meaning was clear enough. Taza felt the air leave his lungs in a rush. She had remembered. She had carried that single night in her heart, just as he had carried it in his own. He lowered himself onto the log opposite her, the firelight flickering across his sharp features. For a moment neither spoke. The silence between them was not empty. It was full, heavy, as though it held all the years that had passed since that storm. Finally, she broke it. I was found, she said slowly, searching for words in his tongue. A family. They took me east. I was too weak to tell them much, too young to understand where I had been. But I never forgot. I dreamed of the cave, of your face in the firelight. I thought, her voice caught, perhaps I imagined you. Taza's jaw tightened. No dream. You were real. As real as the storm itself. Her eyes softened at that, glistening in the glow of the fire. All these years I wondered if I would ever see you again. And now, here you are. She laughed, a small sound, both wonder and disbelief. I thought perhaps the mountain had given me a vision. But you're flesh and blood. He leaned forward slightly, studying her. Her hair caught the firelight, glowing like sun on wheat fields. Yet there was still a fragility about her, the same as he had felt when he carried her through the storm, though now it was hidden beneath the strength she had grown into. Why do you travel with them? He asked finally, nodding toward the wagons where the settlers slept. Her smile faltered. She looked down at her hands. Because I belong to them now, or so they tell me. The family that raised me. They say I am theirs, though I feel no blood tie. They seek land, a new beginning, and she hesitated. I follow, but I do not feel at home among them. Taza's heart throbbed at her words. She was caught between worlds, neither fully of his nor of theirs, just as he had always felt her presence lingering between spirit and flesh. You belong to the mountain, he said firmly, his voice steady. It gave you back to me. She lifted her eyes, startled by the intensity in his tone. For a moment her lips parted as though to speak, but then she shook her head softly. Your people and mine. They would not allow it. The truth of it lay heavy between them. They both knew the gulf that yawned between their worlds. The settlers feared the Apache, and the Apache mistrusted the settlers. To be bound across that divide was dangerous, perhaps even impossible. And yet, Taza could not stop himself. He reached across the fire, his hand steady, palm open. Slowly, hesitantly, she laid her hand in his. The touch was warm, fragile, but undeniable. In that instant, the years fell away. He was no longer the boy in the storm, and she was no longer the lost child. They were man and woman, bound by something greater than distance, greater even than time. The fire snapped, and the night wrapped close around them. Above, the stars wheeled silently in their eternal dance, watching as two paths, separated by fate and carried by storm, finally crossed again. The fire burned low, its glow reduced to a soft bed of embers, but neither Taza nor the young woman stirred to sleep. Words hung between them like smoke, fragile but impossible to ignore. She was the first to speak, her voice hushed so as not to wake the settlers in the nearby wagons. You carried me through that storm. I remember the strength of your arms, the sound of your heart. I thought I was dying. And then I thought perhaps I had already died, for no mortal could have saved me. Taza shook his head, his eyes steady on her face. You lived because the mountain willed it. I only did what any man should have done. She gave a small, trembling smile. Any man might have left me to freeze. You did not. Silence stretched again, broken only by the soft hiss of the fire. Then her expression shifted, her gaze clouding with memory. When I woke after the storm, she said, I was no longer in the cave. A family of settlers had found me. They said I was half buried in the snow at the edge of the valley, nearly gone. I tried to tell them of you, of the boy who saved me, but they thought it fever dreams. I was too weak, too young to argue. Her hands twisted in her lap. They took me east. They gave me their name, their language, their ways, but inside I always knew I was someone else. My life began that night in the storm. The girl who lived before, the child I was, she never returned. Taza studied her, his jaw set. He had wondered all these years if she had been spirit or vision. Yet hearing her speak now, he knew she had been flesh, fragile, lost, taken by fate. And fate, strange and unrelenting, had brought her back. You remembered me, he said quietly. Every day, she admitted, her gray eyes glistening. When I closed my eyes, I saw the firelight. I heard the storm outside the cave, and I felt your strength around me. I carried that memory like a secret no one else could touch. His chest tightened at her words. He had believed himself haunted, but in truth they had haunted each other. Two souls bound by a single night of survival. She reached out, her fingers brushing the back of his hand. Sometimes I feared I invented you, that you were only a dream my mind clung to so I would not forget who I truly was. And now, she hesitated, voice trembling. Now you sit before me, flesh and blood. I don't know whether to rejoice or fear what it means. Taza turned his hand, closing his fingers gently around hers. It means the mountain has spoken. What is meant cannot be erased. Not by snow, not by distance, not by years. For a long while they sat like that, hands clasped across the dying fire. But the stillness could not hold forever. From the wagons a baby's cry pierced the night. The young woman stiffened, glancing toward the camp. "I must go," she whispered, her grip tightening before she withdrew. "If they find me gone, they would not understand. They would fear you." Taza's eyes darkened. "And your heart? Does it fear me?" She shook her head slowly, her hair catching the faint glow of starlight. "No, my heart remembers you. But my people, and yours, they will not see with my eyes." He knew she was right. The settlers whispered of the Apache as raiders, killers, shadows in the desert night, and his people saw the settlers as invaders bringing sickness and greed. Between them lay a chasm as wide as the canyon rivers. Yet as she rose to leave, Taza stood as well, his voice firm. "The chasm does not matter. You are not theirs and you are not lost. You are the girl the storm returned to me." Her eyes filled with tears she did not let fall. She stepped back toward the wagons, her figure dissolving into shadow. But before she vanished, she turned once more, her whisper carrying across the night like a prayer. "I will find you again, as I did once before." Taza stood long after she was gone, the embers burning low at his feet. He had sought her in memory, in silence, in snow. Now she was real again, returned from the past with truth on her lips. And though the world stood against them, he knew what the mountain had given could not be undone. By the time the sun rose, the settlers' camp was already alive with noise. Wagons creaked, animals brayed, children cried as mothers tried to quiet them. Men sharpened tools or argued over the route ahead, their voices harsh against the stillness of the morning. Taza remained hidden among the cottonwoods, watching. His eyes were not on the bustle of the caravan, but on the single figure who moved within it. The girl, no. The woman he had saved from the blizzard walked with her people, fetching water from the river, folding blankets, speaking in soft tones to a child. To anyone else, she looked like one of them. But Taza saw more. He saw the way her gaze drifted toward the trees, searching. He saw the hesitation in her steps, as though part of her longed to break away from the wagons and run to him. He clenched his fists. The mountain had returned her to him, yet she walked in chains invisible to the eye. By midday, the caravan moved again, following the trail deeper into Apache land. Taza shadowed them from the ridges above, careful not to be seen. Every so often his people's scouts appeared at his side, silent as shadows. "They travel farther each season," one of the men muttered, his voice low. "They cut the earth with their wheels. They scare the game. They are like locusts," another spat into the dust. "We should strike now while they are weak." Taza said nothing. His duty was clear. Protect his people, watch the intruders. Yet his heart warred against the truth he could not speak, that among these strangers walked the woman the mountain itself had bound to his soul. That evening, he slipped close again as the caravan made camp. She was waiting, seated alone at the edge of the firelight, as though she knew he would come. When his shadow fell across her, she lifted her head, and her gray eyes softened. "You followed us," she whispered. "Always," he said. She reached for his hand, but before their fingers touched, a harsh voice cut through the night. "What are you doing out here?" A settler man strode toward her, tall and broad-shouldered, his face hard as stone. He stopped short when he saw Taza, his eyes narrowing with suspicion and fear. "Get back, Ruth," the man ordered, grabbing her arm. "Do you know who this is?" "He's one of them." She resisted, her voice rising. "He saved me once, he is no enemy." But the man was deaf to her plea. He yanked her behind him, pulling a pistol from his belt, the barrel glinting in the firelight. "Go back to your camp, savage, before I put a hole in you." Taza did not flinch. His eyes locked on the settler, his body coiled like a bowstring. One wrong move and blood would stain the earth. Yet before either could act, she stepped between them, her arms outstretched. "No!" Her voice trembled, but her stance did not falter. "He means no harm. If you raise that weapon, you will have to shoot through me." The settler froze, stunned by her defiance. His eyes flicked from her to Taza, confusion warring with anger. Slowly, reluctantly, he lowered the pistol. "You've lost your senses, girl," he muttered, gripping her arm harder. "We'll speak of this later." With that, he dragged her back toward the wagons, leaving Taza standing at the edge of the firelight. Taza's chest burned with fury, but also with something deeper. Fear. Not for himself, but for her. She was caught in a world that mistrusted him, bound to people who would never understand what had passed between them. The next day, when he returned to his own camp, his people had questions. Scouts had seen him trailing the settlers too closely. Elders warned him that to mingle with the intruders was to invite danger. "They are not of us," one elder said firmly, his eyes sharp as obsidian. "They take and they destroy. And if your heart strays toward one of them, you will bring sorrow to us all." Taza bowed his head, hiding the turmoil within. He could not deny their words. The settlers and the Apache were like fire and water, forever at odds, forever clashing. Yet his heart had already chosen, even if the choice meant walking into the storm once more. That night, as the fire crackled and his people sang old songs to the stars, Taza sat apart, staring into the flames. He thought of her gray eyes, her whispered words, her defiance in the face of her own people's anger. She had stood between him and death once more, just as he had once carried her through the storm. And he knew then, their fates were bound not only by memory, but by the clash of two worlds that neither could escape. The uneasy balance between the settlers and the Apache could not last. For weeks the caravan pressed deeper into the land, cutting new paths through thickets, felling trees, frightening away the herds that Taza's people depended on. The elders grumbled. The young warriors sharpened their blades, and whispers of retaliation stirred in every campfire circle. Taza felt the pull from both sides. At night he would steal away to the edges of the settlers' camp, finding her waiting with gray eyes full of longing. They spoke in fragments of each other's tongues, their words halting but their meaning clear. She told him her heart was no longer with her people, that she belonged to the mountains, to the memory of that storm, and to him. But with each dawn, when she returned to the wagons, she was once again the settlers' daughter, bound to them by duty and survival. And with each dawn, Taza was reminded of his own duty, to his people, to protect them from those who trespassed. It was inevitable. The clash came one morning when a band of young Apache warriors rode down upon the settlers' camp. Their cries split the air, arrows loosed into the wagons, horses scattered in panic. The settlers scrambled for weapons, children screamed. Women clutched at one another as chaos swallowed the valley. Taza was among the riders, though his heart pounded not with the thrill of battle, but with dread. He had argued against the raid, but the council had decreed it. The settlers had pushed too far. To let them pass unchallenged would show weakness. Yet as his horse thundered into the camp, he saw her. Ruth, no longer just the girl from the blizzard, but the woman who had stood between him and a settler's gun, her face pale with terror as she shielded a child behind her. For a moment, the world blurred. The clash of steel, the screams, the smell of smoke all faded. His eyes locked on hers, and in them he saw the plea unspoken, "Do not let this be the end." An older warrior charged past him, raising his spear toward the wagon where she stood. Without thinking, Taza spurred his horse forward, knocking the weapon aside. The warrior turned on him, fury flashing. "Are you mad, Taza? They are the enemy." Taza's voice thundered back, "Not her." The fight only grew fiercer. Settlers fired rifles from behind wagons, the crack of shots deafening in the narrow valley. An Apache rider fell, clutching his chest. A settler man collapsed in the dust, blood soaking his shirt. The earth itself seemed to tremble with violence. Through it all, Taza fought not to kill but to shield. Twice he saw her in danger, and twice he turned aside blows that would have ended her life. His brothers cursed his hesitation, but his resolve was iron. He would not lose her again. At last, amid the chaos, she did the unthinkable. She broke from the settlers' line, stepping into the no-man's land between both sides. Her hands were raised, her voice trembling but strong. "Stop! Stop this madness!" she cried, first in English, then in broken Apache. "This land cannot be won with blood. It will bury us all." For a moment, the battle stilled. Men stared, shocked by her defiance. Her people shouted for her to return, but she did not move. The Apache riders shifted uneasily, their bows drawn but lowered. She looked at Taza then, her voice breaking but clear. "If there must be blood, let it be mine. But I will not stand by while both our worlds are destroyed." The silence that followed was heavier than any war cry. Her courage hung in the air like lightning before a storm. Even the elders among the Apache watching from the ridge could not ignore it. Taza urged his horse forward until he stood beside her, his presence a shield. He lifted his spear high, then slammed its butt into the ground. "No more," he declared, his voice echoing through the valley. "Enough blood has fallen. If we kill the future." His people wavered. The settlers lowered their rifles, uncertain. It was not peace, not yet, but it was a pause, a breath, a chance. When it was over, the warriors pulled back and the settlers clung to their wagons, shaken and wary. But in that fragile silence, something had changed. She had placed herself between death and life, and Taza had chosen her over duty. The cost of that choice would come later, but for now she lived, and so did hope. The valley was scarred by the clash. The dust still carried the smell of gunpowder. The ground bore dark stains where blood had soaked into the earth. Settlers huddled around their wagons, faces pale and hollow-eyed. The Apache riders lingered on the ridges, their silhouettes sharp against the burning sky. Neither side had won, yet neither had lost, and in that uneasy balance a fragile thread of peace had been spun. In the heart of that silence stood Ruth and Taza, side by side. She still trembled from what she had done, her hands raw from gripping the air in defiance of both her people and his. Yet when she looked at him, she saw not fear but strength, the same strength that had carried her through the storm so many years ago. "You should not have stepped into the fire," Taza said at last, his voice low. "You risked your life." Her lips quivered into a faint smile. "And you risked yours for me." "How many times now?" "Once in the storm, again in the valley. Perhaps it is fate that we save each other." He studied her face, the way the fading sunlight brushed her hair with gold, the storm-gray eyes that had haunted him for so long. "Perhaps it is more than fate," he murmured. From the ridge, the Apache elders called out, their voices carrying. "Taza, return!" They did not sound pleased. He had defied them, protected a settler when their blood demanded vengeance. His choice would not be forgotten. From the wagons, settlers shouted as well. "Ruth, come back!" Their fear was thick in the air. They had seen her stand with him, shield herself with his presence. In their eyes, she had crossed a line, two worlds calling them apart. Ruth turned, her gaze shifting from the wagons to the ridges. She shook her head, tears shining but unshed. "Neither of them will ever understand, will they?" "No," Taza said simply. "But understanding is not what binds us." She took a step closer until her hand brushed against his. Her voice was soft, but it carried with the strength of someone who had finally chosen her own path. "Then let the world misunderstand. I have lived too long between two lives. Tonight I choose mine." Taza's breath caught. He turned his hand, lacing his fingers with hers, and for the first time since the blizzard, he allowed himself to believe. Behind them, the settlers and Apache still glared across the valley, mistrust simmering like coals that would not easily die. But here, at the center of it all, stood two souls who had already crossed the chasm. "We cannot stop the storm between our peoples," Ruth whispered, her head bowing slightly. "But perhaps we can weather it together as we did before." Taza lifted her chin with the gentlest touch, his dark eyes steady. "Together," he echoed. Above them, the first stars pricked through the sky, cold and eternal. The same stars had watched when he carried her through the blizzard, when he woke to find her gone, when he searched the cave again and again for footprints that were no longer there. And now they bore witness to her return, not as a vision, not as a child, but as a woman who had chosen him despite the storm between their worlds. He drew her close, not caring that both their peoples watched, not caring what wrath or sorrow tomorrow might bring. In that moment, there was only the warmth of her hand in his, the rhythm of her breath, and the unspoken promise written in the night sky. A promise beyond blizzards, beyond fear, beyond the clash of nations. When dawn came, there would be reckoning. His people would demand answers. Hers would bind her even tighter to their wagons. Yet Taza no longer doubted. He had doubted once years ago when the cave was empty and the snow erased her trail, but no longer. The mountain had given her back, and this time he would not let her vanish.